This learning module will focus on the RiskMAP products and the best practices for local and state officials to use the flood risk datasets and products that are available through FEMA's Risk Mapping, Assessment, and Planning program. RiskMAP is the acronym for this program. The goal for these products and datasets is for state and local officials to take actions that lead to flood risk reduction, also referred to as mitigation. RiskMAP provides communities with flood information and tools to use to enhance mitigation plans and other management activities to better protect their citizens through more accurate flood maps, risk assessment tools, and outreach support. RiskMAP program goals will be accomplished by integrating flood hazard mapping, risk assessment tools, and mitigation planning efforts. By better aligning and integrating available resources, the potential to achieve mitigation actions is increased. This image demonstrates the components of RiskMAP and the synergies that may be achieved. Due to improved science, FEMA and its partners are able to better identify and quantify risks from natural hazards. This learning module will focus on the products and datasets that FEMA has developed to better quantify flooding risks. The goals for RiskMAP include the following: better hazard identification, hazard mitigation planning, program alignment and synergies, enhanced public awareness through stakeholder involvement and better understanding of risk, risk communication and risk data sharing, measurable actions, and community resilience. A great deal of research and data collection goes into RiskMAP projects. The watersheds are prioritized based on risk and needs. Watersheds with greater population, flood losses, vulnerability, etc. can constitute greater risks. Needs are determined using the Coordinated Needs Management Strategy, or CNMS. CNMS is a comprehensive approach used by FEMA that includes modern geospatial technologies, current FEMA policies, requirements, and procedures to coordinate the management of mapping needs. CNMS uses existing digital map data to inventory and manage the flood map update issues and support the Flood Insurance Rate Map, or FIRM, revision and production planning activities. CNMS contributes to the identification of risk in two ways. The first is by defining where the depiction of flood hazards on firms has been validated through detailed assessment. The second is by showing which previously studied or unstudied floodplains inadequately represent flood hazards. After a watershed is selected for RiskMAP deployment, the discovery process will begin. The discovery process includes data collection from local, state, and federal sources to better understand the socioeconomic flood risks and mapping needs in the watershed, and includes stakeholders from a wide array of disciplines that will contribute to better understanding the risk and needs of the watershed. Engineering and mapping is now based on a watershed approach and will likely include elevation data. In Kentucky, this effort includes the acquisition of LIDAR, which stands for Light Detection and Ranging, data. This technology provides more accurate elevation data and will help create a current and accurate depiction of flood risk. A HAZIS-based risk assessment is a standardized geographic information system technology developed by FEMA to estimate losses from natural hazard events, including flooding. The spatial relationships between the populations, assets, or resources is assessed for the hazard being modeled. The benefits of a watershed study approach include encouraged communication, coordination, and work across community boundaries, coupled with a more comprehensive understanding of flooding. It allows for a more holistic understanding of flood hazards resulting from more comprehensive assessments of stream and tributary relationships, and it provides a framework to evaluate flood risk, engineering need, elevation data acquisition availability, and gaps in the availability of community contribution by watershed. This map illustrates the prioritization for RiskMAP in Kentucky from fiscal years 2010 to 2020. Funding availability and revised priorities may alter the current Kentucky RiskMAP prioritization scheme somewhat. The purpose of the discovery process is to collect data from local, state, and federal resources regarding flood risks and other natural hazard risks. Likewise, infrastructure and resources that may be at risk are also collected during the discovery process to create RiskMAP products that communicate flood risk more effectively. As part of this process, a stakeholder group is developed to provide data and feedback. The stakeholder group can include elected officials, floodplain managers, emergency managers, GIS specialists, MS4 managers, utility managers, planners, engineers, real estate agents, mortgage brokers, local, state, and federal agency representatives from agencies including, but not limited to, FEMA, EPA, and their state counterparts, the United States Army Corps of Engineers, and state transportation agencies. The Stakeholder Group identifies watershed needs, outreach needs, and provides data regarding the communities and counties in the watershed. As part of this discovery process, local natural hazard mitigation plans are reviewed and mitigation actions are identified. These mitigation actions can be used in subsequent natural hazard mitigation plan updates. Engineering and mapping identifies flood hazards, provides local floodplain management data, supports National Flood Insurance Program activities, and provides data for risk assessments and mitigation plans for flood hazards. This process includes the scientific collection, processing, and analysis of flood hazard data to provide communities with accurate flood maps and risk assessment products. Engineering and mapping data provide the foundation for more effective risk communications through assessments and also enable effective mitigation at the local level. Due to the watershed approach, some counties may not receive county-wide flood insurance rate map or FIRM updates at one time. In these instances, the FIRM panels that receive new data will be updated. LIDAR, light detection and ranging, data is being collected in many areas in Kentucky. An airplane that uses infrared laser light to scan physical aspects of the land, including vegetation and structures, produces accurate high-resolution images and digital elevation models. LIDAR is being used to update the topographic data for floodplain mapping and may be used for a multitude of other purposes. The topographic data being collected in conjunction with RiskMAP in Kentucky will have at least a 2-foot contour equivalent, which is more accurate than the current USGS topographic maps. This map shows the areas where LIDAR is available or will be available by the end of 2012. Average annualized loss is the estimated long-term weighted average value of losses to property in any single year in a specific geographic area. FEMA collects this data to use in the HAZAS risk assessment to assess flood risks and hazards. FEMA conducted a survey in 2010 using census information to serve as a baseline, annualized average loss using data readily available at the federal level. One of the components of RiskMAP is to revise this annualized average loss study with better information on a watershed basis. Hazard mitigation planning is encouraged by FEMA to reduce risk from natural disasters, including flooding. By planning and implementing projects that reduce property risk and the loss of lives, these objectives may be achieved. FEMA developed specific requirements for state and local hazard mitigation plans. Communities and states that develop hazard mitigation plans that are approved by FEMA and adopted by state or local governments can qualify for non-emergency disaster assistance from FEMA. In addition, states can develop enhanced state hazard mitigation plans that go beyond the minimum requirements and qualify states for additional hazard mitigation grant funding. Kentucky has an enhanced state hazard mitigation plan that qualifies Kentucky applicants for additional hazard mitigation assistance or HMA funding. Local hazard mitigation plans are generally developed by the Kentucky Area Development Districts, or ADDs. All of the Kentucky Area Development Districts have approved mitigation plans or are working on updates. These efforts result in 100% coverage of all Kentucky communities. Mitigation projects and actions are important to identify in these plans and provide a path forward for mitigation projects and risk reduction. In order to better communicate risk, there is an unprecedented coordination between the FEMA Flood Insurance Program, Risk Analysis Program, and Hazard Mitigation Assistance Program, and other hazard programs including floodplain management, levees, dam safety, drought, earthquake, and landslides. The goal of improved communication and coordination between the FEMA programmatic activities is to improve the information provided to the communities regarding risk and available FEMA programs. In addition, FEMA is communicating with other federal and state agencies that provide risk management services or emergency management services. This includes the United States Army Corps of Engineers, the Natural Resources Conservation Service, and the United States Geological Services, and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or the National Weather Service. The Army Corps of Engineers created the Silver Jackets to improve communication and collaboration between state and federal agencies to reduce the risk of flooding and other natural disasters. There is an active Silver Jackets group in the Commonwealth. The Natural Resources Conservation Service is a federal agency that was established by Congress in 1935 as the Soil Conservation Service. Since then, services have expanded to include the conservation, planning, and assistance for soil, water, air, plants, and animals. NRCS provides water management services to minimize damage to life and property. The USGS services field crews are among the first responders during floods. USGS crews measure the stream flow and height of rivers to ensure the accuracy and operation of stream gauges. In addition, USGS gathers high water marks as the flood water begins to recede. The NOAA National Weather Service monitors local conditions that lead to flooding, issues forecasts, watches, and warnings. In addition to the products available from FEMA, the Kentucky Division of Water is developing a Kentucky Risk Communication Toolbox. Portions of the toolbox can be found on the Kentucky RiskMAP channel on YouTube. In addition, a Kentucky Flood Information Portal is being developed that will provide the Firms and Flood Insurance Study, or FIS, as well as the supporting engineering analysis for these regulatory products. The use of social media, including Facebook and Twitter, is being implemented to communicate risk mitigation programmatic activities and updates regarding disasters in the Commonwealth. As noted on this slide, the timeline for RiskMAP activities is 3 to 4 years. This translates into the development of relationships in the watershed and continued communication and coordination throughout the life of the project. This is quite a departure from map modernization activities, where the focus was to create updated firms and FIS reports. RiskMAP takes a more holistic view of the watershed characteristics that contribute to flood risks and serves to communicate those risks and identify actions that will ultimately reduce that risk. To summarize RiskMAP, RiskMAP is designed to effect change through more effective communication and collaboration. RiskMAP is designed to expand the focus beyond flood insurance requirements and whether you are in or you are out of the floodplain. RiskMAP was developed to produce products that depict risk for the public and community officials for more effective risk mitigation. Lastly, RiskMAP encourages the development of quantifiable mitigation actions that a community can implement to reduce flood risk and build community resilience.